Up next is a pre-recorded episode of Healthy Steps with Dr. Fred Harvey.
The opinions presented on the Healthy Steps show are the evidence-based opinions of Dr. Fred Harvey, the callers, and his guests. These are not the opinions of the staff, the volunteers, or the board of WMNF. The information provided on the show is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease. There is no implied patient-physician relationship in these calls. The nature of the calls is educational and informational only. Good morning to all of you Healthy Steps radio show listeners. This is Dr. Fred Harvey. We are listening to WMNF Tampa 88.5. Today is a pre-recorded show, so there will be no call-ins.
Got Lee from Ruskin on the line. Good morning, Lee.
Hello.
Hi, Lee. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How you doing, Doc?
I'm doing very well, thank you. What do you got for us today?
I have high blood sugar. I take medication for years. But I see on TV these commercials about this beet stuff, beet tablets, beet chews. What's your opinion of that?
Well, blood pressure is a complex issue. It can be related to your adrenals, your blood vessels, toxicity, all kinds of things. And so one of the thoughts is that the arteries get tight, and there are chemicals that help the arteries stay tight or loosen up. And one of the loosening agents is called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide causes dilation of your blood vessels. And beets contain something called arginine. And arginine converts into nitric oxide. And so if you eat beets, you might actually get better nitric oxide and thus more supple arteries and possibly lowered blood pressure. There is no Western medicine treatment thinking here. So a beet is not going to treat your blood pressure. However, if you do a lot of right things, living right, exercising well, drinking lots of water, eliminating over an ounce of alcohol a day, eliminating extra salt, processed foods, you'll find that your blood pressure is going to achieve a better level. When you add medication to that, because you haven't achieved that level, you're actually putting it into a place where you're safer, but you still have a primary problem. Eating beets might help that primary problem, but it really helps to actually do that with a bigger program that approaches your blood pressure from a very broad, holistic pattern.
Yeah, I have mine is that the blood vessels shrinking up and tightening up, as you said. Now, every morning I drink, I'm fairly healthy. I'm 80 years old, but I'm pretty good shape. And every morning I drink a kale, apple, cinnamon. Now, I was putting beets in it. And then beets turned to sugar. So then I got scared and quit that. But you need me to go back to that, you think?
Well, you could take one of those tablets. There's a bunch of them out there that have beet extract in it, or you could eat the beets. Beet greens also have it, so there's less of the sugar in the beet greens, but there's still a lot of the same substance that helps. And so both are valid ways of getting it. And beets, when you eat root vegetables like beets and carrots, the starch does turn to sugar, but the nature of the food is such that it turns to sugar slowly. So if you eat that with other things, you're not going to be getting any sugar damage really from eating beetroot.
Yeah, well, my blood pressure is being very well I've had it since I was like 18 years old, and I'm 80 now.
Wow.
But my blood pressure's been very well controlled with statins, medication, that kind of stuff.
Good.
I mean, it's like 180 again. I mean, 180 over 120, something like that. It's always been, that ain't right, is it?
No, more like 120 over 80.
There you go. Now, I just let the doctor, it was 174 over like 70 something. So
that's high.
I don't think I need the beets, do you?
Well, if it's 174 over 74 or something, yeah, that top number is very high.
I got it wrong. Something's wrong there. The doctor said it was very good.
Okay, yeah, then you may not need it, but beets are good, and you may be able to eliminate your blood pressure medicine if you actually change your diet. I'm not telling you to stop it. I'm just saying that's the way I help people reduce the amount of medication they take by changing what they're eating, what they're doing in exercise, etc.
I exercise faithfully. I mean, I got one of those total gyms.
Yeah.
I hit that thing every morning. Then I ride my bike probably 20 miles a week now. I was up to about 40, now I cut back to 20.
That's excellent.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bubba asks, is beer as bad for you as liquor? I usually drink one beer an evening and rarely drink strong stuff. Well, here's a way to think about that. Alcohol is alcohol. There are different vehicles for ingesting alcohol. So 12 ounces of beer, usually it's 5% beer, 5% alcohol. 12 ounces of beer is going to be your 0.6 ounces or 14 grams. Malt liquor usually has a higher alcohol content, like 7%, so it maybe even 9%. So 8 to 10 ounces of malt liquor or any of these craft beers that have a higher alcohol content would be an equivalent to the same amount. And then 5 ounces of wine. Generally, wine is around, what is that, 12%, 13%, 11%, somewhere in that range. And so 5 ounces of wine is going to be an equivalent. And then 1.5 ounces, or what's called a shot, of 80 proof distilled spirits. It'll be 1 ounce of 100 proof distilled spirits. And that 150 proof that's out there, yes, you get about 3/4 of an ounce. And the grain, you get about a half ounce. Because the grain's about 95% alcohol, almost 99% in some cases. The issue is that no matter what you're drinking alcohol. So those are the equivalents. And one a day maximum for men kind of is the cutoff for where you're going to start rapidly increasing the amount of other cancers. But again, you remember, you're going to be increasing it by 1% or 2%. So that 1% is really important if you get it, but not if you don't. It's a really small increase. So everybody has to make a decision, a choice on their own about how much risk they're willing to increase for their vices. That's really what it boils down to. If you like this, if you desire this, it could cause this, make your choice. The cancers that are associated with drinking alcohol are mouth, throat, esophagus, liver, larynx, the voice box, breast, and colon and rectum. Doesn't appear for some reason that prostate cancer is involved here. And so we have, some real interesting effects that the alcohol has on the body that also continues this thought of how the metabolism, oxidative stress, breaking down the ethanol into acetaldehyde, what it does by generating reactive oxygen species. These are the oxidative stress, the free radicals that damage DNA, proteins, fats, causing rancid fat, rancid DNA, disformed proteins that don't do their job, enzymes that don't work through oxidation. But it also impairs the body's ability to break down and absorb a variety of nutrients that can be associated with cancer risk. So vitamin A, nutrients in the vitamin B complex, folate, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, the carotenoids that are associated with vitamin A, increasing blood levels of estrogen. Estrogen then subjected to oxidative stress, which turns estrogen into something called a quinolated estrogen, which is an intercalating agent. An intercalating agent is something that slips into your DNA and causes a misread, resulting in mutation and cancer. But alcoholic beverages also contain a variety of carcinogenic contaminants. You may really wonder what's coming out in that swill that you're drinking, because in that process, nitrosamines, asbestos fibers, phenols, and hydrocarbons are showing up. Poison, pesticides, herbicides, things like that. So this is a conversation that we as a people need to have with ourselves and with our elected officials, because I don't think they're going to be doing a lot. And Bubba asked, do you think RFK is going to put warning labels on alcohol? I don't know what RFK is going to do. It's going to be interesting to watch because he's completely non-medical. He does have a very strong opinion about petrochemical poisons. And so I'm hoping that since alcohol is a poison, maybe it's not a petrochemical, but it's a poison, maybe he'll be able to actually wrap his head around going ahead and putting warning labels on things.
Yes, my jolly flock of aficionados, if these snippets of the show should sound familiar, you are right. You are listening to some of the greatest questions and answers from the Healthy Step Show with Dr. Fred Harvey. Because this special presentation is pre-recorded, I sincerely regret that we won't be able to take any phone calls today. But stay with us, because this rebroadcast has some listening treats so rare you'll want to keep them in the museum of your heart in a parlor you love to visit called WMNF Tampa. All righty, I've got Annie from Gulfport on the line. Good morning, Annie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Annie. What you got for us today?
Well, I was just wondering, you were talking about alcohol, and I know that humans have been drinking alcohol from the dawn of the dawn of time.
Indeed.
I wondered, and I know animals also recently, they've found that a lot of animals eat fermented berries when they get fermented and get crunchy and so forth. So I'm wondering, what's the difference between some sort of natural alcohol that they would have made 3,000 or, ancient times, and what's being done today? It seems to me that a little fermented cider probably would not be nearly as dangerous as some of the high-powered liquors that are, how are they made? What kind of chemicals are in them, and how do they make them, and all of that? I think that may be a big difference, and I'd just like to hear your opinion.
Very good. I don't think there is a big difference. I think alcohol is alcohol, and even the super-duper processed ones, 5 times distilled vodka, that's only going to have alcohol in it. Basically, you're drinking pure alcohol diluted with some spring water when you're drinking vodka. The distillation process removes almost all the other chemicals except for ethanol. And so if you're drinking distilled spirits, you're drinking ethanol. You may, if you throw your ethanol into an oak cask that's been charred on the inside, you're going to have the chemicals coming from the oak, from the char. So there's going to be all these flavors going into it, which is how we end up with whiskey, the brown colored stuff, because it's leaching these chemicals out of the oak cask as it ages. You don't age vodka, it stays in a metal cask. But our ancestors would, one of the reasons we drank alcohol is that basically it preserved the grain from the harvest rather than letting it rot or get eaten by the rats. Preserved fermented grain is drinkable and edible. It has calories. It does get you a little high, but even back then, the concentration of the alcohol wasn't all distilled out. It was like really low concentration, 2-3%, maybe 4%. Unless they really did let it ferment a long time. Wines began to get more alcohol in them. But early on, it was basically preserved food, so we had to eat it because it was all we had. And the concentrations were lower, and we didn't live in the lap of luxury where you can go down to a bar and drink 27 ounces of alcohol in one freaking night. We just didn't have this. We live in a weird world of extra luxury where we can actually consume excessive amounts of anything we want. And that's really the issue, the excess.
Yeah, I agree. But I was just thinking some of the old, cavemen sitting around a campfire sipping on a fermented apple drink or something. It's probably not nearly as dangerous as
it's just as dangerous. There's no difference. It's alcohol.
Alcohol. So even cider, even if you had some cider, I don't drink personally, but
yeah, even if you have some cider, it's still alcohol.
Do it.
Ethanol. Ethanol is the chemical that is causing the problem. So no matter what form you deliver it in, ethanol is the toxin.
Why do you think animals continue to eat fermented berries and get...
Because they're tasty and they like to get drunk.
Maybe that's the answer for everybody.
Seriously, that's it. We're a bunch of bonobos and great apes that just love to eat fermented grapes.
Yeah, I read that. Yes, exactly. And I've seen birds in my backyard go after cherry laurel berries and fall.
Oh, yeah.
They fall out of the tree.
So true.
All right. Well, thank you for your opinion. So I guess the human race will just kind of keep drinking some sort of alcohol without...
We will. We will.
And I certainly hope that if you had a little glass of cider sometime, it's not going to kill somebody.
No, that's the whole thing. It doesn't at the time. It's like the more you do over a longer period of time, you increase your risk for certain things. And so, yeah, a glass of alcohol here and there, a little bit of cider now and then, it's not a horrendous thing. But when you do it every day and you do more than a couple ounces every day, you're basically pushing yourself into a toxic state.
Of course, if you ate hamburgers 2 or 3 every day, I mean, you'd be in a fine state as well.
Exactly.
Anything to excess is excess. All right. Thank you, Dr. Harvey. I appreciate your show. You have a
You're
good
so
day.
welcome. Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Well, Bob in Largo says that after back surgery, his doctor told him to follow the rehab program and not to complain for a year. I say that sounds like a typical surgeon. Where's the compassion? But in reality, back surgery does some major damage and should be avoided at all costs by any people that can think about doing anything except for back surgery. And I know I can probably get a lot of angry emails based on that, but I can tell you from my personal experience, when my right leg was paralyzed in 1994 and I couldn't get out of bed because the disc had sheared off and landed on my right L5 S1 nerve root and caused my right leg to completely be paralyzed. I did not do surgery because I know what happens after surgery. Always another surgery. And so what I did was find chiropractors and acupuncturists, massage therapists and yogi therapists, meditation, nutrition, acupuncture, everything I could think of, I worked on. And I healed my back. In 3 months, the paralysis was gone. In 6 months, the pain was gone. And I've not had a problem since 1994, and I don't plan to have one. And I recommend that anybody who has the suggestion of chronic back pain, unless it is actually documented spinal stenosis, they want to try and avoid surgery at all costs until there's no possible other way. Find a functional medicine doctor, find a muscle activation technique specialist, find somebody to help you with the back pain. And pick up a book by John Sarno. Dr. John Sarno wrote a book about back pain, and he has some very good recommendations in there about the origins of back pain, and many of them are emotional. Anger and back pain go hand in hand. And so I promote the advice that if you have back pain after back surgery, there's a problem here, because the back surgery is supposed to relieve the back pain. And you need to do physical therapy, rehabilitation before you get back surgery, because much of back pain is also caused by weak back muscles. So why get surgery on weak back muscles? Do the work and see how you can improve. Anonymous, how does sugar from cane or alcohol destroy the liver? Well, sugar from cane or alcohol doesn't destroy the liver, but excessive use of sugar can result in insulin resistance. Insulin resistance can result in excessive storage of triglycerides. Triglycerides are the components that make your liver fatty, which causes fatty liver disease and then cirrhosis. So over a long haul, that could happen. And then we already discussed alcohol. Alcohol metabolizes into acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde is a toxin that kills cells. So it is alcohol as a solvent that directly irritates and kills some cells, but then it metabolizes into something else called acetaldehyde that also then kills the liver. So yeah, there's a couple layers of stuff here that work on it. Here's one from David Bryant. He asks, the question about beets reminded me of a great Tom Robbins novel, Jitterbug Perfume, in which the main character lives for an extraordinary long time because he only eats beets. I love it. Great book. I'm not sure I could live just on beets, but yeah, if you're going to eat phytochemicals all day long, plants, you're going to live very well. Let's see. Hey, I quit drinking 4 years ago and changed my life for the better in every single way. And now you're telling me there's more? As you dive into this, please don't hesitate to mention, if you care to, for folks that have trouble stopping the drink, there are free resources out there like 12-step programs that have helped millions over half a century. Absolutely. These are great programs. They really help people. And I think that is a very, very valuable way to look at it. We really need to help people and support people. And we also have to remember, we have to support people who have an addiction to alcohol. This is not a moral problem. This is a physiologic problem. So I think it's time for society to cut the moral judgment of people with addiction, people with alcoholism. An addicted gambler is the same thing. Addiction is an emotional problem, and it's not someone that someone makes a choice to do. They are actually short-circuiting the choice, and they're stuck. There's nothing immoral about these problems. They are physiologic and emotional problems, and we need to be there to support these people. Missed a bit of the show, but I was wondering if NA beer is okay, non-alcohol beer. So if you're not triggered by the NA beer, there are fermentation products that might trigger some people in there. But you might actually get triggered by kombucha. Most people don't realize that kombucha has alcohol in it. It's fermented. They just stop the fermentation process early, and so people still get exposed to alcohol. So think about that next time you go for your draft kombucha. Here's someone that writes in. Shannon from Boynton Beach says, yes, no more soda. I gave it up over 20 years ago. That's excellent, because there really is no purpose to drinking soda except for making profit for Coca-Cola or other generic beverage creators. Now, you could get by with having some of the more naturally sweetened beverages. There's some new sodas that use a sweet fiber called inulin. It's a prebiotic. It helps your gut. And Poppy sodas and Olipop, and there's the other ones out there that use this, and they're sweet, and they use maybe a little bit of stevia, but nothing in it is toxic. Sugar sweetened beverages are really not something to drink when you're thirsty. In fact, they're not something to drink really at all. Might consider it a treat, but it's a risky treat because it does cause heart disease and diabetes. And so I've heard, a not insignificant amount of people say that they don't like water. It doesn't taste like anything, or somebody even said it tasted like sand or something like that. I don't understand that mental block, I think, an emotional problem with water. Maybe it's because the water is not filtered. It could be that you're drinking tap water. It tastes like chlorine and sulfur here in Florida. That is pretty bad. It's not very attractive, and something in it like lemon or something might help that. But getting a filter, even a simple filter like your Brita pitcher, will at least take some of the chlorine out, so it doesn't taste as badly. Take some of the sulfur out and some of the biologics, so you have a little less of that smell and taste. But water is the key. We need to be drinking around a half ounce per pound of body weight daily, unless we have kidney problems or heart failure problems. Then we need to talk to the doctor about really how much fluids are going to keep us in balance. But it's really an issue in that soda is not helpful. And we also know that the artificially sweetened beverages are very similar. They actually induce inflammation in your gut that causes diabetes and heart disease. So you can't get away from the risk of diabetes and heart disease by stopping sugar sweetened and going to aspartame or sucralose sweetened beverages, because they're toxic. They are just toxic.
Let's go to John in Temple Terrace.
Hello, John.
Good morning.
What do you have for us today?
I was listening to your talk about sugar and diabetes and all, and I agree with your write-in guy who says that soda is absolutely insane. That's been a long, long time since I ever drank any soda, but I've recently decided to eliminate all sugar as best I can from my diet. And yesterday was the first day of that. So I cut out sugar in my coffee. I cut out any kind of sweet treat that I would normally eat while drinking my coffee, and watched the sugar intake for anything else I ingested. What I'm finding is it's almost impossible to go out to the grocery store and buy items that are nutritious and sugar-free. They are far and far in between. So I'd like to know, are there things that we can do cooking-wise and food-wise to help get this sugar out? Because it's bad. I mean, I guess there's two lines of thought, cold turkey and gradual. And I went cold turkey, and that was a mistake.
Yes.
From experience, that was a mistake. I felt worse
Yes.
than I normally do. And
Yeah,
that
many
is
people-
a meeting, and I guess that's common.
Yeah, many people feel terribly if they do it cold turkey. Anything cold turkey, that sudden shock to the system is hard. So, actually using a tapering off is a good idea. I've been doing that. My partner and I've been doing that over the past months. Just like looking at the foods that we bring home, and truly, it's difficult to get processed foods that don't have added sugar. And so you stick to the periphery of the grocery store and stick with whole foods, whole vegetables, fruits, whole grains, fermented dairy and things like that don't have added sugar. They're available. And then there are, when you're cooking, I actually made cookies yesterday, but I substituted something called allulose and monk fruit for most of the sugar. The sugar is actually kind of necessary for the chemical reaction in the baking. It's hard to get the same product to turn out when you don't use that, but allulose is a non-nutritive, non-absorbed sugar. It is more expensive than regular sugar. So as we're limiting our sugar intake, we're going to also limit our intake of other sweet things because they'll be more expensive. But they have found a way to actually blend things together to make non-nutritive sweeteners that work. The allulose does help in the baking. It is a sugar, but it's not the same as the sugars that we normally eat. So there's a company called Lacanto, Lacanto, that has these monk fruit allulose blends, Well Living or Whole Living or Whole Being, something like that, is a company that makes some organic sugars like coconut sugar, but they also produce the allulose alone. And so there's more and more options for us who, those of us who like to taste something sweet, but we can do it with less sugar sweetening. And I mentioned the inulin also. Inulin is a very sweet flavored fiber that doesn't impact the body with the glycemic index that sugar does.
Yeah. I found one of the hardest things to buy is cereal.
Yes.
I found one cereal yesterday, and it was the Soar brand, shredded wheat, with 0 sugar in it. One out of all that I picked up. And if it's got a colorful cover on it, I don't even bother because I know that's full of sugar.
Right. Whole oats is a really good option. Whole buckwheat, cream of buckwheat. Those are other options that don't have added sugar.
Yeah, I eat a lot of oatmeal during the winter, but that's a difficult one during the warmer months. But I appreciate what you do, and thank you for the information on the Emulant. I'm going to look into that.
Okay, yes. Glad you called.
Hello, all you loyal fans of Dr. Fred Harvey. This spectacular Monday morning, you are listening to a special rebroadcast of some of the clips composing the Best of Healthy Step Show. And as the nature of pre-recording shows go, there will be no one answering the phones today. So, write your questions on the back of a $20 bill and mail it to WMNF Tampa, and we'll answer it next week.
Let's go to Simon in Bradenton. Good morning, Simon.
Hello?
Hello there, Simon.
How are you?
Good. How are you today?
I'm all right. I wanted to get your opinion on if somebody was, say, a heavy daily drinker for 10 plus years, and
yes,
they did want to stop. Would you? And I know you were just kind of talking about this with sugar, but would you recommend like trying to wean yourself off, or to just go cold turkey? Because
what do you mean by heavy drinking?
I don't know, probably 4 or 5 drinks a day.
Cold turkey could induce delirium tremens, the physiologic withdrawal experience when quitting that much alcohol cold turkey, but it may not happen. Everybody's different.
Right. Now, is that a physical thing or a mental thing?
Physical.
Okay.
Yes, it's actually, it can be deadly if it is severe enough.
Right. So you would suggest maybe weaning off, or?
That is one possibility. If it's really difficult to do that, it would be worthwhile to actually talk with an addiction counselor and maybe get help in ending the addiction with support.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to get your opinion on that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Have a great day.
And you.
Thank you, Simon, and best wishes to you in that task as well. Let's go to Mark in Hudson.
Hey, Mark, what do you have for us?
Hey, doctor. I love your show, and I'm just wondering why more doctors don't talk about keto. And, dry January is, a good place to start. You've already, committed to a month there. And, we've got family and that we're trying to help with the overweight situation, and people are just having all these carbs and sugar and storing it in their bodies forever. And, it's becoming to the point where you're almost insulin resistant, and you've got all that stored glycogen, and you're trying to get that gas tank down while you're converting over to keto. It's a struggle for everybody, but obviously, allulose is one of those things that works like Ozempic. It makes you less hungry as well. But
Yes.
all those cereals, they're just carbs. You have to get to the eggs and bacon and get to the fat.
That's true. You do need to actually get protein on board, fat on board. You really need to balance out your macros. But sometimes when you're really out of balance, I'm blanking on his name. Robert, the first keto doctor back in the 90s, Atkins, the Atkins diet.
Sure.
He had an explanation for these people that are in the state that many Americans are, having been doing the SAD diet, and they're overweight or obese. He considers their system physiologically out of balance, and so to get them to push back towards balance, he recommended an imbalanced diet, and that's the keto diet that he talked about and promoted, because if your physiology is so far out of whack because of excess carbohydrates, going to excess fat actually pushes it the other direction and then brings it back to balance. Eventually, most people really need to get off that diet because it's not actually a long-term healthy diet, but it does help fix the aberrant physiology of the over carbohydrate eater with insulin resistance.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that you have to get off of keto, though. This is my 5th year in it. And as long as you get the fiber from the vegetables, that you're adding some fat to them, it's a very sustainable diet.
Yes, for some people it is, but not for everyone.
Also, it strips all that, fat, that visceral fat from your organs. It takes that off of there. It takes all that, releases that,
It depends on whether you're eating too many fat calories, because I've had people that actually get fat on the ketogenic diet because they don't exercise and they're eating way too many calories. So it can go the other way.
Well, here's the thing. If you're overeating either way will be bad. At keto,
Exactly.
You're trying to stay under 20 grams of carbs a day. You can't be an overeater.
Right. And then once you get to the point where your physiology is stabilized, you can actually have more carbs than 20 grams, because most people actually do well with more than 20 grams. Most.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Once you're in a stable, weight, you could add whatever you want to your diet and become more normal.
Yeah, like get back to the Mediterranean diet, which is the human diet.
Exactly. Roger that. Well, I just want to say for those folks that are out there that are overweight, if they just start eating fat, they will start stripping that fat away, and it will also cause you to lose a lot of water weight.
Yeah, it will. Yeah. You'll have a complete shift in your physiology. Inflammation should reduce when you get rid of that excess carb and fix the insulin resistance.
Right. And, I think for, a year or two, it's a great way to kind of reset your whole body and find out that there's a, savory diet out there that you can eat for a whole year that will actually reduce your weight.
Sure. And it works. I agree.
Yeah. But my original question is, I'm not sure why we're not telling people more about keto.
I think a lot of people do, but you have to remember that the Western medical establishment isn't about promoting health. It's about treating illness. So that's...
But those of us out there need to be shouting it out loud to everybody.
Well, yeah, so that's why there's more and more functional doctors every year.
Yeah, and that Bosworth is one in Tampa that's very good as well.
Excellent.
I love your show, Doctor. Thank you so much for my time.
Thank you. Thanks for contributing.
Have a great week.
You too.
Thank you there, Mark. And let's go to Greg in Illinois. He's been waiting patiently. Good morning, Greg. Welcome back.
Good morning, and thanks again for taking my call. Two questions, if I may. I just had my yearly physical, and of course the blood test they do is your basic metabolic profile, and there's some things that creeped up in the last couple of years now. I think maybe some of my symptoms might be explained by this, a little bit of shakiness and a little dizziness, but my A1C has been being tracked, and I'm now at 5.8. And then I had, which is typical for me, my white blood cell count is always low, and my lipid profile is really low. Lymphocytes are 1, and my WBCs are 3.22, and my hematocrit, my MCV was high. So I, with that climbing A1C at 5.8 now, and I've kind of changed my diet a little bit to actually introducing some fruits, which I like avoided carbohydrates almost completely, and I'm actually now eating some fingerling potatoes, and I do buckwheat, and I do some fruits in the morning because I need carbs when my training. I'm wondering if that's thrown this off. So my two questions are, one, is there other testing maybe I should do? The doctor wants me to go to an endocrinologist and get thyroid and to see my thyroid. That also had a T3 level that came in at 72, which was low. He wants me to look at thinking I have a thyroid issue along with a pre-diabetic issue. What type of blood tests might I go to? There's a walk-in lab that will do any test you request, and I'd like to maybe get a broader perspective of lab tests as opposed to what you explained, like they kind of wait till endpoint disease on these parameters, and then you've already full-blown problem. So could you recommend a thyroid blood panel or a company that I could request that, and maybe what I could do for the sugar? And lastly, they were talking to me about maybe testosterone being checked. I know I'm losing a little weight even though I train, and I don't know if I'm one of those men that might benefit from testosterone, although I don't want to mess with Mother Nature and create other problems with prostate or anything by taking hormone replacement. So those are the three areas: hormone replacement, thyroid, and my possible sugar imbalance.
So you do have a sugar imbalance, and you would be considered in the pre-diabetes zone. So you have insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is associated with alterations in the availability of hormones like testosterone and thyroid. If you are having insulin resistance and your body's not responding and thinking that it has enough calories on board, it may actually make thyroid a little less available. And when T3, total T3 is low, it means that more of it's bound up. Not that you don't have enough T3, but your body's actually protecting the availability of it. Because when you don't have enough calories, you don't want to turn your metabolism on and burn more calories. So an insulin resistance physiology appears to your body like you don't have enough calories. Your body may protect the thyroid and thus reduce the available circulating T3 without having an abnormal thyroid. And so the reality is you probably have things that are causing your prediabetes, which many of the things that cause prediabetes are the invisible things that are in our environment, the organic petrochemicals, and also deficiencies, like deficiencies of fish oil. And so I think you deserve not to see an endocrinologist, because I don't think that would be useful in any way here, because they're just going to tell you have a normal thyroid, go away, especially if your TSH is normal. but you probably would benefit from having your glucose and insulin level checked at the same time to see how they relate. You might also want to get an advanced lipid panel. Quest does that. It breaks it down into the particles so you can see how your body's actually metabolizing the cholesterol. Or you could do one from Boston Heart Labs that looks at cholesterol balance through the absorption of cholesterol, so you can see if you're actually getting it in your diet. You're not having a very high cholesterol, so maybe you're not eating enough saturated fat or cholesterol, or you may not be absorbing it, or your liver may not be making much. These tests are all available, but most Western doctors don't avail themselves of these tests because they don't spend time understanding the physiology. Another layer of this would be, considering you have a high MCV, that could be related to B vitamin metabolism. You might want to get a B12 and a folic acid level, a methylmalonic acid level, which reflects B12 metabolism, and a homocysteine level, which reflects the folic acid metabolism. If that's all normal, then that's not the reason you have an odd MCV. It could be fat metabolism. So you might want to get an omega-3 test to find out, an omega index to find out whether or not those are in balance. I like the Genova Laboratories Nutraval. All of my new patients get a Nutraval when they come in because it gives us a broad look at the metabolome, including markers for the gut, the mitochondria, looks at the omega index, looks at your oxidative stress, looks at your antioxidants, looks at B vitamin needs. All these things that I was talking about to evaluate these multiple issues you have going on.
Good to hear. I'll have to do that. Yes.
Yeah, there's a bunch of evaluation that would really help a doctor who's interested in your physiology to get your metabolism going in the right direction.
Okay. And would the testosterone question come in through some of these tests if that needs to be?
Oh yeah, you could do a hormone test. I like the doctor's data HUMAP, HUMAP, because it gives a really rich amount of data there. But if you can get a doctor to order you stuff from Quest, it'll be less expensive probably. But it may not be. Sometimes those aren't covered either, and you need to pay cash for them, and it's going to cost more for going to the regular lab, because the HUMAP from doctor's data is relatively inexpensive for the amount of data they give you. It's one of the best tests I use today for looking at hormones, and insulin resistance will alter your testosterone level, because they've shown in the HIM study 20 years ago that medical problems in men cause testosterone problems, and not generally the other way around. Most men don't lose testosterone production. They actually lose the physiology that supports testosterone production. And when the physiology is fixed, the testosterone production comes back. I personally am an example of that. I had a testosterone level of 97 at one point, but once I cleared up the actual emotional, spiritual problem, I was in an abusive relationship. It was an emotional castration. When that cleared up, I actually had normal testosterone again. I never took testosterone since then in the last 15 years.
Wow. Okay.
Actually, no, it's 18 years now.
Wow, that makes sense, though, to me, to hear that. What would there be a blood study or something to find that out? Did you say the doctor's data UMAP is recommended, perhaps?
That's one, but you could just go get testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, and DHEA sulfate at Quest or LabCorp. Those four will give you a pretty good analysis of it.
Okay. All right. That is great to hear, and I appreciate your time and your caring. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right, now. It's a pretty darn good show so far, you got to admit, but it is someplace between deja vu and a flashback. And that's because this is a pre-recorded show of some of the best of the Healthy Steps show with Dr. Fred Harvey. And because it's a pre-recorded show, I regret that we won't be able to take any phone calls today. But, by golly, next week we'll welcome you back like the prodigal sons and daughters that we love here at WMNF Tampa. Now let's get back to the fun at hand.
Let's go to Kathy in Hudson, who's been waiting patiently for us. Good morning, Kathy.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Harvey.
Yes.
I'm listening to your conversations. I never drank soda as a child. I couldn't stand syrupy drinks, but I'm pre-diabetic anyway at 65. I'm struggling with my weight. I thought I'm eating healthy, carrots. Cabbage now is like $6 for a head of cabbage. It's getting very expensive trying to eat healthy and shopping the perimeter. I'm tired of cooking vegetables. I could go on and on. I bought bulgur wheat. There's like 29 carbs in a quarter cup. Now, that wouldn't even feed a bird, a quarter cup. So I'm like struggling, and I'm wondering if also enzymes, stomach enzymes can help me digest and eliminate fat. Like I bought some amylase, pancreatin, protease, lipase. Can any of that help me dissolve some of those carbs?
What those things are proteins that help break down complex molecules like a starch or a protein into its components. Like the protein will break down into amino acids, and a starch will break down into sugars. And so amylase will help break starch down into sugar. But it won't help you eliminate them. It'll help you absorb them better so that you can actually gain more calories out of them so you can actually retain more fat. So no, enzymes aren't a way to lose weight.
Oh, okay.
What a way to lose weight actually is to exercise. Are you exercising 20 to 30 minutes every day, walking outdoors?
Yes, I've lost about 5 pounds. I go to the gym. I'm doing cardio, rowing, cycling. I'm running about, a fast jog for about a mile.
You're on the path. That's great.
So I've improved a lot of that, but I feel like I'm not gaining the success, and I'm still craving sugars and fats and salt.
Well, you actually started losing weight, so you're actually making progress.
Yeah.
How's your meditation practice? Are you actually doing a daily visualization of how wonderful your world is without all these calories?
No.
Okay, there's your next assignment. Daily meditation to use your consciousness to create your new body.
All right.
Best wishes on that.
Okay.
Joe Dispenza is a great place to go. drjoedispenza.com. drjoedispenza.com has great guided meditations that help you energize your body for a new mind.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I also bought some amino acids to gain muscle. Is that good?
I think the key is to actually eat the right amount of protein, carbs, and fats in the right amount of calories and exercise every day and meditate every day, and that will change everything.
Okay. Those are the standard things you should do. There's no miracle cure.
No, that's the problem. There is none. The miracle is actually investing yourself in your own life.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Harvey. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
Okie dokie. I do have Tracy from St. Pete on the line. Good morning, Tracy. And as you said, Doc, we're down to about 6 minutes.
I'll go quick. Hi. I'm 57, diabetic, postmenopausal, and I have bad bilateral hip pain.
Hey, Tracy.
Everything.
Tracy, let me interrupt for just a second. Don't ever call yourself a diabetic again. You're a human.
Okay.
You have a sugar metabolism problem. What does a diabetic look like? Are they green? Do they have 6 eyes, 12 arms?
Point well taken, and I should know that. I listened to you for years. Okay. I've changed everything in my lifestyle. Low carb, plant-based, Mediterranean, all that, and I haven't lost any weight. I've changed everything, and they say it's a lifestyle. Anyway, so doctors write it off to hormones, and that's it. But worse off, I'm almost in a debilitating hip pain. I diagnosed myself with a bursa, and I had some injections. It didn't work. Now it's bilateral, and I have some lower discs that are a problem, and I haven't done anything about those. But I can't.
What are you stuck in your life? What are you stuck in right now?
I'm in a wonderful place. Wonderful place. I'm very happy. I've been doing my breathing exercise, everything. I listen to you religiously.
Hip pain energetically sometimes means you're not stepping forward in life.
Okay.
But on the other hand, you could have inflammation there that is due to a misuse. Since you said you have some low back stuff too, you might want to go to see a physical therapist or a muscle activation technique therapist to find out if you have imbalance in the muscles and you're using them wrong, because that may actually change the dynamic there in your low back and hip.
Okay. I always do everything wrong, so... and muscle. Yeah, so why would this be different? But my phone has seen me Google all this, and all these ads come up for postmenopausal gluteal tendonitis or tendinopathy, or
Okay.
Is that a thing? And then they suggest...
I don't know. You're the first person that's ever mentioned it to me. I think that's another marketing ploy for somebody to sell you something, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, they come up with curcuminoids and glucosamine, and I do glucosamine. So that I will stick with what you just said.
Get some physical work. See an MAT, muscle activation technique person.
Perfect. Thank you, Doc, and I will increase my circle of friends. Thank you.
Yay.
Well, I always
have a good day.
I like hearing that, Tracy. We appreciate it very much. Let's see how we're doing with Chantel right now. Good morning, Chantel.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Wonderful. How are you? What you have for us today?
I'm doing good. I want to kind of give like some preliminary facts about myself before I ask you these questions. And so I'm a black woman. I'm 40. And I'm a vegetarian, and I weigh 190 pounds. And one thing I always get is that...
How tall are you?
I'm 5'4".
Okay.
And I always get, I don't look my weight. I don't look like I weigh 190 pounds. And so I learned two things about fat. You have subcutaneous fat and visceral fat.
Yes.
And so my first question is, are there specific vegetarian foods or nutrients that can help reduce both types of fat? And what types of exercises are most effective for reducing visceral fat? Because I think maybe I might have more visceral fat than subcutaneous fat, so... Those are my questions.
So I think that you can, vegetarians often have trouble with carbohydrate balance because of the nature of the diet. I've had a couple people who've tried. It was difficult. They got it done. They did ketogenic vegetarian eating. So they, as a vegetarian, they could eat eggs and dairy. So they did eggs as part of their protein. They did whey protein. They did vegetarian plant-based protein like pea and rice protein, a variety of different ways to get enough protein in, because to really be effective at weight loss, you need to actually have, especially in a situation where you are, you need to be reducing your carbs to a minimum. You may even want to, if you're having that much trouble losing weight, start keto, go down to 20 grams of carbs a day. It's really hard on a vegetarian diet, but that would be a way to get things moving. But if you simply decrease your total carbohydrate intake of starches and kept your carbohydrates coming in the form of vegetables and fruit and added more protein, eggs, dairy protein, like Greek yogurt, unsweetened, that kind of stuff might give you the right ratios. And I think it's really helpful to talk to a nutrition coach, someone who is a dietitian, a functional nutrition coach, the health coach. These people will help you stay on track with the changes in your diet.
Okay.
And exercise, 20 minutes a day at least. But when you do more than 90 minutes a day, if you're doing that, you might actually have a rebound and have trouble losing weight.
Okay. So as far as what types of exercises would you recommend?
I think walking is the best exercises any of us can do. Long, slow, continuous burn helps you burn the most amount of the visceral fat calories. But high intensity interval training can also help with it too, because it gets the metabolism sped up faster.
Okay. Well, my goal is, like I said, I'm 190 now. My goal is to try to get to 175. would you say 175 is a good goal? Even though I know you're probably going to say no, but
I think it is a great interval goal. I really do.
Okay.
And so that would be, but you have a lot further to go than that to be at your ideal body weight. But go to 175 first. I think that's awesome. Make that your first goal.
Okay.
Good luck with that.
You have been listening to the Healthy Steps Radio Show with Dr. Fred Harvey.